Hello, Golf Plus community. I am Topher James, and I am going to do another course walkthrough here at Harbour Town, home of the RBC Heritage event here in wonderful, beautiful South Carolina. I'm in Nebraska, so I wish I was in South Carolina. Shout out to my fans watching me today. Dumb joke. Anyway, so here at Harbour Town, make sure you do two things. One, you are very straight and accurate off the tee. And two, you have a good up and down game because the greens will explain why. But here at hole one is par four. The course itself is par 71. There's two par fives on the front, one par five on the back. And hole one is a pretty decent par four. It's only 400 yards. The challenge for this hole is the end of the fairway. So for me, if you only average 290, or you can do a cut, it's easy to put it in the fairway. But for the longer hitters, you have a good chance of going into the rough. The cool thing about the rough is this is one of two courses, I think this course in Bay Hill, that has the first cut. And on this fairway, so you have two options if you want to stick in the fairway. Preferably anything centered to the right will give you a good shot to the green. Anything left, you will still have a shot to the green, but if the pin's on the left side, then you better play a hook or a draw. If you ended up in the first cut, I usually play it, not much difference. I mean, I'll play about a 5 yard difference, and then I will aim a little bit to the right because I think it will kind of pull it just a little bit, but I'm still experimenting it myself. But definitely on the fairway, don't drive through the fairway. Try to put it center to center right. When you get to the green, you'll have about anywhere from 80 to 120 yard shot. The green isn't too bad, other than the fact that majority of it, as you can see, goes from right to left. Now this walkthrough is back easy low, so easy pins. And if you hear me hesitating, it's because my camera's acting weird, or my headset's acting weird right now. So the easy pin is in the back. I want to say the hard pin is over here. I don't have the pins mesmerized, so we're going to focus on the green itself. But pretty much, as long as you stay away from the bunker and you can go far left or even to the right, and you still have a pretty good up and down. The green itself, attacking the pin, just try to give yourself an uphill putt for birdie. It's nothing too stressful. So it's a good hole to get started and try to get birdie on. The next hole is one of the three par fives. I think all the par fives here are very challenging. It's borderline whether it's a realistic par five or not. So again, off the tee, you definitely want to make sure you're accurate and get into the fairway. The fairway itself is not that big. So you have the bunker on the left. If you go off to the right, you'll have trees to deal with. So just try to be accurate off the tee. You have a little indentation on the left. So anything in the first cut is decent as well. So really try hard to put in the fairway. If you don't, then don't be afraid to either punch a shot up there, front of the green, or lay up to give you a good look. Anything past this bottleneck of trees, you have the waist on the right. You still have a narrow fairway with a little crack right here. Never saw that before. But the green itself, there's a lot of things that come into play. So for a par five, and you think your shot's going to be anywhere from like 230 to 260. My headset's really going weird right now. So it's going to be hard to keep it on a green with your long iron fairway wood. So easy pins up here. I want to say middles right or mediums right here and hards back here. So it's just situational and depends on what you want to go for. If it's left or if it's the easy pin, I like to try to miss it left or miss it short and just chip up and down for birdie. If it's if it's the hard pin, then I won't have a problem going long or going to the right because this part of the green is easier to deal with. So, like I said, it's purely situational. It's whatever you're comfortable with. But if you get a successful tee shot, definitely put your second shot next to the green so you can at least give yourself an up and down for birdie, and if not, two putt par. You go on to hole 3, and again, it's only 464 yards, so you'll have about a mid iron into the green. But it's definitely all about. I'm going to take a second and appreciate the fact that from the back tees, you have to hit under a tree. Which try to stay away from the trees. It doesn't happen too much to me because I'm pretty accurate off the tee, but I've played rounds with other people that even when they get close to a tree, there's a phantom limb that they'll hit. So just kind of be cautious of that. But if you get into the fairway, so left is trouble because you have trees to deal with. Too far left is pine, rough, and then you have trees to hook around. A good bailout area is almost to the right. I know it's waste. It plays like sand, but at least you'll have a good shot to the green. But definitely want to try to stick it in the fairway if possible, if not miss right. When you get to the green itself, a little too close. So the sand bunkers aren't too bad. Um, I don't remember where the pins are, but if you just look at the green itself, anything long is great because you have the fall off area in the back. If the pin is to the right, the sand isn't too much trouble to deal with. But the iron shot itself should only be anywhere from 140 to 180 yards. So be aggressive, miss long, and you know, just be careful of the false front, which I want to say the ball stays there. There's red marks on the sides. It's pretty standard par 4. Just be accurate. Don't worry about it being long. You get to the first par 3 on hole 4. And I want to say all the par 3s have water. I'll have to double check that. But it's 180 yards to the front, 210 yards to the back ish. The challenge will be, again, I zoomed too far. So the challenge will be the green itself. I do know the hard pin likes to hug the water. So if you're going to be aggressive on it, just make sure that you try to play some fade, or if you play a draw, aim. It's a very aggressive play to play the pin on the left because you definitely put water into play. Other than that, everything's good. The easy pin is right here. You can go at it. The medium pin is back here. I do know that because I always forget that there's the red slope back here. And if you run it up the middle, you can actually get it to go back. Other than that, a good miss area is to the right. So you have all the fairway, the collection area to deal with for chip in. Again, like I said at the beginning, make sure you're accurate. Make sure your short game is top notch because this course will test you on that. But none too big about the par 3, other than if you want to be aggressive, just make sure you're accurate. You then get to the second par 5. Now this par 5 is very enjoyable. It's pretty long. 300 yards down the fairway will still put you about 260, 270 out from the green, from the middle of the green. The hardest point will be if you miss left. Get out of the way. If you miss left, you put water into play. If you miss a lot left, and then there's bunkers protecting both sides of the fairway. Even if you go straight, so if you look at the line on the map, and if you go straight down the fairway, you can actually put that bunker into play. So if possible, just hit a draw into the fairway with no wind, or try to play it right to left. If you're going to play a cut or a slice, just try to end up short. But put the ball in the fairway right here. If you get in trouble, don't be afraid to lay up. There's been a few times where I put the ball in a bunker on the fairway and I try to lay up and I'd still find myself in this bunker. So be smart about that. Give yourself 100, 120 yards which I want to say, yeah, 100 to 120 yards will put you at this area that I'm standing in right now. The green is very challenging. So easy pins right here. I know hard pin is up there. I want to say medium pins is over there, possibly. Or maybe I got that backward. Maybe medium, then hard. So a couple of challenges right here. One, it's a narrow green. It's skinny. So you're hitting a 3 wood, a 5 wood, even a driver up to this green. The ball can roll. A good bailout area is to the right, except you have to play where you can't see the pin. Like it will be above you, is what I'm trying to say. So you'll have to flop it. Plus the green is running away from you. You can play in the left and into the sand, but there's chances are you might have a 15 to 20 yard sand shot, which is definitely the yellow area for me. It's definitely a little bit concerning. So if you really try and play safe, just try to hit into the front and chip up, or if the pin is in the back, hit in the back. Purely situational. Do whatever you feel comfortable with, but when you go aggressive for the green, just kind of make sure you're like, okay, if I'm slicing the ball, I'm probably gonna be down here, so I'm gonna be prepared for a flop shot. Hole 6, par 4, 396 yards. Really, the only issue on this one is for people who slice. So if you slice the ball in this one or miss it to the right, there's a good chance you put this bunker into play. There's a good chance that you put all the pine straw into play. By going in the pine straw, you're then putting these trees. I like to try to hit towards this waist area, which a few times I will end up in the first cut or even do end up in the waist area. But the waist area itself isn't too bad if you drive through the fairway, because you can tell it's only 300 yards, because then you'll still have 100, 110 yard bunker, sand shot, waist shot, whatever you want to call it. So it's still not that bad. The green, however, is very challenging. Looks like an avocado, but it's the how much slope there is itself. So for having a 100, 120 yard shot for me, I always have too much backspin. So I constantly fly it into the middle if it's in the front, or if it's in the back, I try to fly the green a little bit to run it off the fairway. But backspin is definitely an issue if you get a good tee shot in the fairway. Uh, it's better off to really just always aim for the middle of the green and just to give yourself either a decent downhill or a decent uphill. Some good bailout areas. If you bail out to the left, you put the slope in the play, and if you get too aggressive on your sand shot, you could actually run it off the green. And then, far is a decent shot. I think right and short will be the most common, which isn't that bad because of the slope. If it's in the middle or in the front, you can at least be aggressive off the chip. Uh, if the pin's in the back, I would just go long. Long and left is where I would try to miss. So, again, just need to be accurate and be situational. Take your time. Don't rush into it. Make sure you make a good shot. Go to hole 7. So, this is the second par 3 with water. This one I think is a little more forgiving because the water isn't so much of the play, it's more of the sand shot. So it's we'll say 200 from the front part of the green to 230 on the back from the back pins. But as you can see, there is water, but it's more or less surrounded by rough and sand. If there's high winds or there's a bad wind situation, you can definitely put the trees into play, which will make things interesting. What I do like about this green is this front embankment. So if you're able to hit a high shot off the tee, then you can kind of hit it on the front or the front right and just kind of let it roll out a little bit. There is a pin back here, which actually works out as well because then you can just hit on the left side and it will just roll right and give you a putt. So whatever you can do to try to be accurate and give yourself a good chance for birdie. Nothing too big on this. The miss areas, I would say, will definitely be right because you have the fairway in the rough. Anything over here, I don't know, it's just too much jeopardy. So hit at it, miss right. If you miss it, get up and down for a par, move on. Par threes itself, I mean, if you get a birdie on any of these par threes, that is a very good hole. Hole 8 is another dogleg par 4. You can kind of drive through the fairway depending on the situation. A lot of times I play a draw and I'll end up over here, which then thankfully I'll play another draw. If you play a cut or a slice and you miss it to the right, you can still play another cut or slice. But realistically, just hit a nice 300-yard shot. Maybe, actually, yeah, you can't even lay up on this one. Just try to hit it straight, miss it right, because left, if you go too far left, there is water in the play. I have seen a few people go in there. The green, another skinny green. Well, I'd say about 160, 170 is my average going into this green. I have played from the bunker a few times. The bunker itself is pretty difficult because you're playing on a sidewinder. So if you hit it low, it'll run out on you. If you check up, it won't break like you want. So the miss is definitely to the right because then you just have a fairway, chip shot, flop shot, pitch shot, whatever you want. If for any reason you hook a lot or if there's a right to left wind, definitely miss more to the right because not only is there sand, but then there's water in play. But just try to be accurate. That's going to be the theme of this video. Make sure you're lined up correctly. Take your time. Don't just rush into it. Hole 9 is an interesting par 4. And for me, so there's a couple of things to talk about on this one. I always try to drive through the fairway and put myself in the first cut, the rough, or even the bunker. If you go too far left, playing this course, I think I've hit this tree like 5 times, and the ball has ricocheted. And if you see right here, there's a marker. Yeah, there's a mark over there too. So I want to say out of bounds is right here. And if you hit a tree or if you pull it left, that out of bounds comes into play very well. So there's a couple options. You can either lay up with like a 3-iron or a hybrid and give yourself 100, 120 yards out. This is the easy pin. This is the medium pin. And then this is the hard pin. If it's the easy pin, I'm going to be aggressive on the drive and put it in the sand all the time because then it's like a 10-yard shot. And for me, it's pretty easy up and down. The other 2 pins, I respect those a little bit too much at times. And this one, actually, I mean, they're both, once you get on the green, they run up pretty hard. And especially if you put it in the sand, because then you have to try to get the distance. So just try to respect those a little bit more. So on the easy pin, be aggressive. The other 2 pins, you can still be aggressive off the tee. But try not to end up in the sand and try to, get the distance right on your pitch shots. Hole 10, probably the widest fairway on here. So the whole, you get 300-yard shot gives you about 150, 160. It is a pretty wide fairway. There is good miss to the right. There isn't out of bounds until way off to the right. Definitely don't go left. There's water. But definitely wide fairway. And with this one, I think you can still be pretty aggressive because any of the misses isn't too bad. So easy. I know there's a pin back here. I want to say that's medium. And I think hard's over here. Maybe it's over here. Oh, it's a very narrow green. It slopes from the back to the front. Definitely be aggressive with it because you can afford to. If you miss it left, you still have a chip. If you miss it right, you either have a chip or a sand shot. So depending on how your game's going or your round's going, I'd be aggressive. Yeah. Anyway, what hole am I on? 10. Going on to 11. Another par four. And this par four, you can give yourself a wedge shot if you get into the fairway. The challenge will be going into the fairway. So you have trees on the right, you have waste on the left. I draw and hook a lot. So if I want to miss, I probably miss it to the left. Plus, you don't have tall trees to deal with. And then, okay, so target area would be right here for 300 yards. So if you miss it right, you have to deal with those trees. You have to, be creative how to get to the green. At least if you miss it to the left, you have an open shot. And then the green itself, you have this beautiful tree right here. Hello. You have the bunker on the left, which will be very difficult because it is a wide bunker and the whole green slopes away from you. I do think the miss is to the right. Again, I can't remember where the pins are. I want to say one here, one somewhere on that slope, and one in the back. Are all these greens shaped like avocados? So yeah, if you get in the fairway on your tee shot and you have a wedge going in, definitely be aggressive because you have more control on it. Since you have a wedge, try to fly it and let it come back off the slope a little bit. And if for any reason, try to bail out to the right. Is my best suggestion. What hole 12? A lot of these par fours are starting to turn into the same. I mean, it's the same issues. Either you have cut off fairways or narrow landing zones. Everything's around like 400 yards. Anyway. So 401 yard par four, 300 still keeps you in the fairway. Okay. So in this fairway, because of dogleg right, just miss left, aim left, draw left, whatever you can do. Just don't end up here in the pine straw because not only will you be in the pine straw, but you'll also be in the trees. I made that webcam video, and I remember getting caught in the trees and having an issue. So definitely try to miss left on this hole, in the fairway, first cut and rough. Even with those shots, you still have a wedge in. The green itself is actually pretty challenging. Easy, I want to say a pin in the elbow and the pin in the back. So the pin in the back, just be aggressive with it because there isn't. That looks weird. The pin in the back, if you miss it, you'll just have a chip shot. The pin in the front, just throw it long. If you're very accurate, throw it long or right and let it come back. If you do miss it, miss left so you can at least chip up. And then in the middle, if you miss it, just miss it right so you can have a little chip down. Again, before you play the weekly event at our Harbour Town, just practice your chips, practice your flop shots, practice from the fairway, practice from the rough, the sand, practice 5 yards, practice 20 yards. Really get that going. That will help save you on this course. 372 yard par 5 on this easy pin. I play a lot of people who will drive and give themselves a 60 to 70 yard shot. Not always guaranteed in the fairway. Sometimes it's in the waist. I will always hit my 3-wood because it will give me about 115, 120 yard shot. Plus the landing zone is much better. So for my 3-wood, I have this big area, but for the driver, you're talking about a smaller area right there, plus putting the waist in the play. Fun fact, I golfed with someone who hit the house and wasn't able to get free relief off of it. So if you do that, good luck. Hardest part for me on this hole, if it's in the back, so I think here and here are two options of the pins, then I get very aggressive. If the pin is up front, which I think is hard pins, I have an issue with it because it's such a narrow landing spot that a lot of times I will miss to either side onto the bunker, which is then just an up and down from a bunker. So just make sure you're very decisive on your tee shot, and then put yourself in a good situation for your second. Second par three, okay. Yes, all the par threes have water. And this par three is probably the most intimidating for me. And it's not just yeesh. Okay. So this par three itself is 160 from the front, 200 back. So it's a very long par three, but it's very narrow. And the part that always gets me is this part right here, this bank. So anything to the right will, go to the right. Anything to the left will actually bounce left. So there's a pin here. There's a pin here, which is also very difficult when you want to be aggressive. And then there's a pin up here somewhere. And that pin is challenging as well because, I mean, if you want to get close, you have to be aggressive. But a lot of times you'll just kind of miss long and left and hope to make the putt. I personally always like to hit a right to left shot on this hole. That helps me put the water out of play, and if anything, I just miss it left. But definitely a challenging par three. Just miss left if you need to. If you get on the green, get birdie. Just survive the hole. 15, arguably my favorite par five of the game. No idea why. Really, because it's just on the line of you can always go for the green if you have a good tee shot. So it's rewarding to be aggressive. It's rewarding to be defensive. I don't know. I just love this hole so much. But like all the holes, make sure you get in the fairway. So the 300 area will be about right here. So if you miss right or left, you put it in the waist. If you do put it in the waist, you can still hit it in this area right here next to the water, which would still give you 120 and 130 yards out to attack the green to get up and down for birdie. But if you do have a good tee shot and you still have anywhere from like 250 to 270 yards in, this shot, I love this shot so much. So there's a pin here, there's a pin here, and there's a pin here. If you hit it long enough, you always put water out of play. It's more the question of where your ball is going to be. Will you miss it in this sand? Will you miss it in this sand? Will you go long? And if you go next to the stands, it could drop you into the sand. Plus, this up and down shot from over here, at times could be pretty difficult depending on where you want to go. But my favorite shot so far is, I think, like a 270-yard shot, and I'll cut a driver and I'll run it up onto this bank when the pin's right here, and then the ball will actually come back down and give you like 10 to 20 feet putt for eagle. So very challenging, very mentally, challenging. But all else fails, if you get a good shot, just bail out to the left and then chip at any of these three locations. Or you can, if the pin's right here on these two, hit it in the sand or hit it in the rough. And if the pin's back here, just miss it long, Going on to hole 16, and this par 4 is, I don't know, it's a bastard of a hole because oh man, I do not want to play this hole with a left right wind, especially a high wind. Any high wind on any of these holes is just going to be annoying. Like Striker plays a low, a low drive with high winds, for rollout, and that's what I would figure I would have to do. But this hole itself, it's not a long par 4. 300 yards doesn't get you to the elbow, but the trick here is, one, the fairway is going that way. You have a tree right here, and you have all this open rough. So you have to play a draw. Regardless if you can or not, you have to play a draw, or you just have to realize that you're going to end up in the rough. And then when you do end up in the rough, it's still not that bad because a lot of those shots are anywhere from like 140 to 160 yards. But if you put it in a fairway, uh, hopefully you'll end about right here. If you go too far, you actually put this tree into play. And then if you get too cheeky and try to like hook it too much, you'll put this waste into play, which still isn't that bad because that could be anywhere from 80 to 140 yards. But the tee shot itself is pretty nuts. If you put it right in rough, it's not that bad. The green itself is pretty challenging. There's a pin right here. I know that if you hit into it, there's good chance it will roll off. If the pin is back here and you have a wedge in and you spin it a lot like me, you have to like try to fly a little bit to roll it back on. And I want to say the best pin, I don't remember which one it is, but it's over here. So that's probably the best attacking pin. But really, as long as you don't end up in the sand and you have a shot at the green, there's no reason. I shouldn't say there's no reason. There's a good chance you'll get par, which is good. Then the last par 3, hole 17. So there's sand on the left. If you go too far left, there's water. But the green is 180 yards to about 215, we'll say. And the bailout area is definitely right. There's the pin right there. I want to say here and here. The longer it goes, the more you just want it to run up. There's so many times that I've hit it short or I'll miss it to the right. Left isn't too bad because, if you're on the rough or on the sand, you have to hit up on a green, but you can get some rollout. So just try to be accurate. Try to hit straight or miss it to the right is my best suggestion. Getting birdie on any of the par 3s is just an outstanding achievement. And then hole 18. Pretty wide fairway at 300 yards. I mean, you're talking, pretty big area. And then once you do get in the fairway, hopefully you still give yourself a 160, 170 yard shot. Let me teleport. All right. So you have all this fairway to play with. If you miss too far right, you put that waste in the area in the play. If you go long left, you can actually roll through and into the rough. And then focus on this line because there's a stick here. I want to say this whole line is out of bounds. So if you hit too far left, you can put that into play. I usually like to aim, over here. And then the green is almost a very symmetrical green. Just pin here, and there's a pin back here, I want to say. So no wind, you can be very aggressive. Just be careful. If you miss the green, there's a very good slope, and you see the stakes here on this outline. That's out of bounds as well, or a hazard, I should say. So you'll get a penalty if you miss left. So go at the pin, miss right if you need to, just don't miss left. And then when you're done, appreciate the lighthouse and how much you actually wish you were at South Carolina to be at this cool golf course. But that's Harbour Town. That starts tomorrow. This is the second course walkthrough of the series. I hope everyone learns from it. I hope at least one person learns from it. I hope you enjoy it. I want to say, oh yeah. You can actually come over here to the harbor. What is all this? In case you want to teleport over here. But yeah, good luck to everyone playing in the Harbour Town event. Hopefully this will help people. If you have any thoughts or questions, put it in the comments. I just kind of want to point out and show off the course. If you don't own the course, it's enjoyable. It's fun to play with. It's very challenging at times. Just a heads up. But hit them well, do well, have a good day, and I will see you later.